Welcome to Upstack America's IT training programs. My name is Bob and I'm the IT training lead for Upstack America. Today's training is on data science and specifically on artificial intelligence and machine learning. Our trainer will take us through today's session is Paul DeBacker. Paul is a data scientist with outstanding work experience managing digital transformation projects on artificial intelligence and machine learning. He also holds extensive experience as a solution architect for robotics process automation, and also he has experience as a developer for robotics process automation. Paul holds a Master of Science in Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning from the University of Texas in Austin. He also holds a first-class honors Bachelor of Technology degree from Anna University, Chennai. Thank you for watching and we hope you will enjoy the training.
Kevin, let's get started then. So I think in yesterday's session we learned about what is a lambda function in Python. How does it look like? What's the importance of a lambda function? How can lambda function help you in terms of modifying your code, where you can write a code of 4 lines where I can do the same operation in, let's say, three to in a single line, right? Right. So before we move ahead, any questions on what we discussed on yesterday?
Nope.
Okay, perfect. And I hope I'm audible, right?
Yes, you are.
Okay, let's go ahead get started. So today's lesson is a little bit onto the implementation side. Today we don't have much of the theory because by today we'll wrap up all the basics of Python, right? The hands-on part as a part of, let's say, a pre-work or learning session. So from next week onwards, we will be deeping into excuse me, we'll do a deep dive on topics like basics of statistics, which would be our starting point into AI and into the ML portion. We will not get into the ML directly because you need a bit of understanding of statistics to know how machine learning works, because this entire game of AI and ML is completely into mathematics, right? So it is very important that you understand certain things. So today we're going to complete the hands-on with respect to the Python practices that we have, with respect to your NumPy, with respect to pandas, and I think you would have already gone through certain things through the link that we shared you, and also you did some courses. So based on that, we will also go ahead and quickly see certain NumPy related you know uh, tasks, and we will get started for the day. Okay. Just give me a sec. Yeah. So we're going to talk about NumPy. So what is the NumPy library in Python and what does it do, right? So NumPy library in Python is very, very important. And see, there are two libraries in Python which you need to have at least minimum of a skill in intermediate level, because these are the two things that we are predominantly going to use in our, AI and ML part. Okay. So what is NumPy? NumPy is a library for Python programming language, which actually helps you to deal with multi-dimensional arrays and matrices, along with a high level of mathematical functions to operate between arrays, and how do you store information. So let's say if I directly tell you what is an array, so you might be so do you have any idea what is an array in computer science, by any chance, if you would have learned this concept, or what is an array in your bachelor's grad during the grads?
Say that again, Paul.
So do you have any idea what is an array?
Sorry.
So yeah, so if you see here, NumPy is a library which helps you to compute or store multi-dimensional information in an array. Now, what do you mean by an array? Have you heard of this term before, or it's pretty new for you? That's what I just wanted to know.
That's new.
That's new. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is an array? So if I ask you that what is an array, in not only in Python, the concept of array is popular in any programming language. Okay. So array is actually a container in any programming language which can hold a fixed number of items, and these number of items should be of the same type. Did you hear the concept of data structures in your bachelor's degree by any chance?
Yes.
Okay. Did you study about data structures?
Yeah.
Okay.
The
So got it. Now,
dimensional
so
data.
right. So
Yeah.
data structure is actually very, very vital for any engineering grad, that they give you some common topics to learn. And in computer science especially, data structure is the topmost priority that you learn in your engineering grad. In data, so similarly in data structure world, we have a concept called as array, right? So this is the array part that we are going to deal with today. Okay. So now let's say, yeah, so let's say I want to store some information. So what is an array? So as I said, an array is represented as a container which can hold a fixed number of items or values which should be of the same type, and it is a concept of data structure that we utilize here. Okay. So now if you see that what we are trying to achieve, so if you see that NumPy is a library in Python which helps me to deal with arrays, an array of information. Okay. Now if how does arrays generally look like? That's one of the biggest thing that we want to understand, right? So let's say I have a box where I want to store certain values. Okay. So let's say I'm storing 1, 2, 3, 4, and the number 5. This is, say, an array where I have stored some random numbers which is consuming certain amount of my memory, and it has a size. So this is an array what is represented in Python, that when we have a fixed amount, when we have some random values to be stored with certain memory space, and we want to later on access those values, we store them in an array, which gives me, probably you can say, a sequence of memory space where I can store my values. Okay. Now what is, these are called array of values. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are my array of values. Now what is array of reference? So for any random access, let's say you need one extra pointer every time, or let's say you want to specifically identify one value at a time. Okay, you do not need the whole array, you might need one array at a time, correct? So what you're going to do, so you're going to access this value, this value, this value, this value, this value independently. So array gives you that option to access those values independently that you have stored. Or if I have to tell you in a different way, right, the concept of array. So initially the table, generally if you create an array table, initial size of an array always remains 0 and is empty. Okay. So whenever you create any default array, unless and until you put any data, it remains 0. Okay. So let's say I want to create a hierarchy of an array. So let's say I have created an array. So now this is the box or the memory allocation that happens in the programming language. Now until and unless I store any number, array will be having the value of the size as 0. Let's say I stored the number 1. That means my array size has become 1. Now let's say I have the second array. I want to update this array with 2 values. Now the array size was 1. The 1 is already there, but this is empty. The moment I put the value 2 here, my array size becomes 2. Similarly, I might want to add one more value. Okay. So my array size here was 2. So from here, I add an incremental array size of 2. From 2, I add an incremental array size of 3. So let's say 1 and 2 I already had. I want to add one more value. So till here my array size is 2. The moment I store 3, this array size of 2 gets converted into 3. So my array size gets increased. So this is the way how we can store values in a array which is one dimensional. Now generally we also have a concept of two-dimensional array. So where you might be storing values at two different rows. Okay, so this is what I showed previously, that I just stored 1, 2, 3 here. Let's say 2, 5 and 6 are the values I'm storing. So this is my one dimensional array because I have only one row, probably you can say, or one iterable row to access my values. Now what if my array looks like this? When I have two different rows or more than two different rows to access, I might store some value here as 1, 2, okay, here I might store 6, here I might store 7, I might store 4, I might 3 and 4. In this case, I'll call this as a two-dimensional array because I have two different rows, iterable rows. This row is denoted as axis 1 and this row is denoted as axis 0. So if I want to delete any value, or let's say I want to add any value to this, or I want to fetch any value from a two-dimensional array, I need to know that since it's two-dimensional, from which row I want to fetch, and by row here we denote axis in Python. So we have to specify whether it's from axis 0 that you want to fetch the value, or it is from axis 1 that you want to fetch the value. So this is at the very back end, but we don't have to understand theoretically that much because Python by itself takes care of all these things. But just for knowledge purpose, how the things work at the back end, we want to see this. Right? Now let's jump into the exercises. So now let's say I have created a simple list which is 1, 2, 3. Now list and the major difference between list and array in Python is that the major difference that I can think of, you can say, okay, list also stores values, arrays also store values. So what's the difference? So arrays are actually, generally when you read about data structure, they teach you about, arrays and linked list kind of a thing. So we don't get into those things right now. So what is the difference between, so array also helps me to store certain amount of values. I can access it, whereas list also stores and helps me to access certain amount of values. I can access it. Now, what is the difference? So list actually consists of elements belonging to different data types. So in a list, okay, I can save one. So let's say the basic example that I can give you is, so let's say I create a list here, okay. So list, the main difference is list supports multiple data types in one list. But whereas in array, you have to take only similar type of data. What do I mean? Let's say I'm creating a my list, okay. I'm saving a value 123. Sorry, I'm saving a number 123. I can store a character or a string as well. I can store your name also in this, okay. And then I can store one more number, and then again I can store a name. Or I can store anything which is a float. If you have learnt in Python, this we call it as integer value. This with decimal we call it as float. So we have two integer values. We have one string and we have one float. If I execute it, see, my list is still accepted. Now if I want to see what is there in my list, I can find, okay, sorry, oh, okay, I wrote it 2 times. So I can find that the list I saved has an integer, has a string, another integer and a float. So in a list, I can store values of different data type. Now if I want to see what is in list of 1, it will return me that it has a string called Kevin. If I want to see what is in list of -1, that is the last value, it will tell me that it is a float, right? But what happens in an array? In array, you can store only similar amount of, or the data belonging to the similar data type. If you are storing numbers, you have to store numbers. If you are storing alpha strings, you have to store strings. You cannot store combination of values in an array. And whereas in list, you can store So list another is cannot directly handle mathematical operation. In let's say in array, in a list you can not do default mathematical operation, but whereas within array you can perform direct mathematical operation, you can handle that.
Is that some noise coming from your end?
I think someone's phone is ringing.
It's you, because everybody else is. Let me see.
Sorry, I hope it's fine now, right? There's no noise. Okay. So that was the difference between a list and an array. Now, if I create a list, okay, I'm creating a list which is having a value of 1 to 3, and it's a simple list. Now, if I convert this list into an array, what do? I have to import a library in Python called as import numpy as np. So if you would have learnt about Python already, that when we want to import any specific package related to that operation, what we are going to do, we have to import that library. So we are calling that library within our program, and the way you call it in Python is import followed by the library name as np, that I want to denote this numpy as np, because it might be very tough for you to write numpy everywhere. So it's just an alternative or abbreviated form. If I don't use this, then also it will work, but then I cannot use np. I have to call numpy everywhere. So just to make it programmatically easy to write, we say import numpy as np. Now I have created a list here. Now how do you convert a list into an array? So I will say np, that is numpy dot, I'll call this array method, and I'll pass on the list name, which is my simple list. So now so this is like convert list into a numpy array. So when I run this will return me the value 1 2 3, but it was a list here, but now it stored me as an array. So let's say I store this value in a variable called a. Okay. So now if I want to see what is there inside a, I can see that a has a value 1 2 3, but of this array. But let's say you want to see what is the type of a. So simple list was actually a list, but when I did np.array, it actually converted a into an array. So if I see type of a, it will return me it's a numpy.array. But even though I don't do type, when I want to see the values of a, it will show me that it's an array with values 1 2 3. Okay, so this is the way. So when you want to convert any list of elements into an array, just do np.array and then pass the name of the list. It will convert that entire list into an array. Right? Now, second thing in NumPy is there is something called as array range. Okay, so now let's say I want to, okay, so let's say I want to create an array of a number ranging between 0 to 10. Okay, how do I do it? So there is an option called as a range. So np.arange is a method which helps me to specify a starting point and an ending point within which all the numbers will be stored in an array. So value is, let's say I'm creating something called as value is equal to np.arange of, I'm specifying 0, 10. So within starting range 0 to the ending range 10, please create an array of the numbers. So if I run this, it will be executed. Then let's say I want to print the values inside value. See, it is telling me it's an array where it has taken the value of the starting point 0. So 0 to 10 is the range. So that means my total count of the, so total length of my array should be 10. That means it has taken the starting point as 0. Then to make the count as 10, it has to stop at 9. Because whenever your counting starts from 0, your value should be 1 minus your total length. So if I have to count 10, 1, 2, 3, 4 like this, I'll go till 10, then only the length of this will be 10. But if I start from 0, then I have to stop at 9, because 0 to 9, the length is 10. So when you create a range, you specify the starting range and the ending range, and this ending range acts as the length also of that array. So that means if you start with 0, it will go till the last value minus 1. So how do I play around with it? So let's say, let me just clear all this. Yeah. So let me say I want to start not with 1, but I want 0 not with 0. I want to start with 1. In that case, it will start with 1 and then it will go till 10. It will start with 1 and then it will go till 10 because it takes this last value as the length of that array. So now if I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it takes the starting range always the same, but the last value will be always -1. So if I put 20 here, it will print me till 19 because the last value -1 is always becoming the range in an array. So remember that. So if you calculate something, you have to calculate one, you have to give the range 1 extra. So let's say if you want to calculate values till 20, I have to give the length of arrays 1 to 21. Then only it will store the value from 1 to 20. Because the last range of the value is not calculated, it's -1 of that value. So that's how a range in an array works. We have seen the same thing in list also, right? Whenever, sorry, not in list, it always takes the value -1. So we have to specify it in that way. Now, let's say I want to create an array with so many zeros. Okay. So let's say I have a desire to create an array with zeros and zeros and zeros. So in NumPy, there is a provision called np.0. Let's say I want to create an array with 100 zeros in it. I cannot write a program. So I'll just say np.zeros. Inside I will pass the value. So it will create me an array of 100 zeros. If you can see here, it did not print the entire one, but yes. So if 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it will be creating an array of zeros of length 100. Let's say I want to create an array of only ones. Okay. So there is a provision, we can say np.ones of 50. So if I pass the number of array size, it will create an array of 1 of size 50 for me. So like this, these are the default array creation methods in NumPy. You have np.zeros, you have np.ones. Now let's say I want to create an array with a random value. So NumPy has a provision called random.rand in Python. Always remember, Python has a provision of generating random numbers. Okay, let's say I want to generate random numbers within a range. So you have to utilize this function called random.rand. Before that, if I put np dot, it will convert that into an array. So I am saying this means that create an array for me with random numbers of size 3 by 3. See, random number array of size 3 by 3. That means if I look into the length and breadth of this array, I have 3 horizontally row wise, I have 3 values vertically column wise. That means random.rand generates. Now let's say every time I run this cell, it will generate random numbers for me. So you will not have equal values same time. So for example, let's say I'll take a screenshot of this. I'll save it. Okay. Now if I rerun this cell, see the values are changing. Previously, what was the value? It was 36.36, 0.37, 0.94. But now if I see here, see the values are changed. 908092. Let me run it again. See the values will be changed again. So every time you call this function, it will give you a random set of numbers of array of matrix 3 by 3. It will choose by itself. You also don't know, I also don't know. Even the Python itself doesn't know what sort of numbers it's going to generate. So this is, when you create when you create some lottery games in Python, when you create gambling games and a lot of lottery related, gambling related games or guessing games are created, this random.rand function is used where, let's say I'm giving you 5 lottery tickets, right? You have 5 numbers. Now whichever number the program generates is the winner. So what will I do if I have to program that? I will use the random.rand function, which will give me random numbers by the system itself. I will not have any influence as a programmer. And if that number matches with the number you have, you won the lottery, right? So this is how concept happens. So it's a small function, but it's very effective to generate random numbers, right? Now let's say I want to generate a random number. Okay, but here it was 3 by 3. I want to create now here 3 by 2 matrix. The size is 3 by 2. So now if I run this, see, I have vertical row wise 2 and I have column wise 3 because the size is 3 cross 2. Here I have the size is 3 cross 3. So it was 3 row wise, 3 column wise, 3 cross 3. Now here it is always the row value versus the column value. So 3 becomes my row value here, 3 rows, and 2 is my column value where I have only 2 rows, sorry, 2 columns in my entire array. So this is how you generally create or deal around with array. So now let's say there is a provision of transposing the array. Now let's say I have a provision, I have a use case where I have an array of 3 cross 4. Okay, so how will a 3 cross 4 array look like? So if I make it as 3 cross 4 and then I run it, see, it became a 3 cross 4 matrix, an array. That means row wise I have 3 rows, 1, 2 and 3, and column wise I have 4 columns. So that means this is my row value and this is my column value. So 3 cross 4 array got created. Okay, so now let's say in some of my machine learning operation, my input that I'm receiving is a 3 cross 4 array, but the model that I'm going to create needs 4 cross 3 array size. That means just the reverse. Okay, so what do I do in that case? So I will have an input of 3 cross 4, but I need to have an array of 4 cross 3 to fit into my solution. What I'll do, there is a provision of changing it. So I will do something called as transpose. So you would have, if you have learned mathematics, matrix calculation, if you learned, you would have seen that if I have a matrix in mathematics where I'm storing 1, 2, 3, and let's say 4, 5, 6 in matrix, this is the matrix notation, right, in mathematics. So if I want to reverse it, I do a mathematical transpose. That means the row becomes column and the column becomes row. So this becomes equivalent to what? It becomes, so it will be row is 2, right? So it will be converted into, so my column would become now 3, like 1, 2, 3, and it will become 4, 5, 6. So this is the transpose. So I had a 2 cross 3 matrix, which I did a mathematical transpose, and I now made it as, sorry, it was 2 cross 3, right? Yes, now it became 2 cross 2 kind of a thing, right? So this is how your transpose happens in mathematics. Now let's say I wanted a 3 cross 4 array which I got created here, but my input needs 4 cross 3. So what I do, that B where I stored my array dot capital T is an operation which will transpose my value. So see, so I stored in B 4081 0028 8859 and it was a 3 cross 4. Now see, it became 4 cross 3. So when I did a transpose operation, my this array got converted into a 4 cross 3 array. So now I have 4 rows, okay, and I have only 3 different columns. Here I had 4 columns and I had 3 rows. So which got 3 cross 4 got transformed to 4 cross 3 by performing a mathematical operation called transpose, which is pre-built in your Python. All you need to do is your variable of array dot t and it converts the entire array. So is it clear to you, Kevin, or you have any question on this? Any doubt?
No, that's clear.
That's clear, right? This is basic maths, correct?
Yeah.
So now let's say I want to again create an array of range 10 and stop it at 20. That means if I do this, the array will be created from 10 and it will stop at 20 because last value minus 1 is the length of my array. Now if I want to, let's say in list we can identify what is the value at specific index. Now let's say I want to know what is the value of this, what value I have at the 8th index. See, at 8th index I have 18. So if I count from here 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So at 8th index I have 18, so it is returning me 18. Now let's say I want to identify what are the values I have between index value 2 to 5. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I specify index value 2 colon 5, it will tell me that okay, within the index value of 2 to 5 you have this value. So I have 12 at 2, 13 and 14. So it took -1 because last value -1 is always my range. So it printed till 14. If I make it as 6, it will print me till 15. Because it then took this range, because it's always the starting value and the last value -1 is the range of my index of an array or the length of an array. So are the basic things in NumPy, which you can learn about. So there are multiple other operations which you can do in a NumPy array. Like let's say if you want to subtract anything, various arithmetic operations are also let's say possible, right? So let's say we do a basic arithmetic operation. So let's say I have a is equal to np dot array, okay, and I'm creating an array of values 1, 2 and 3, okay, and I am creating another variable b is of an array. So this is the way you create an array. First this your opening bracket, okay. So now let's say I create something like I store here as 2.5. Let's say I store it as 1.5 comma 2.23 comma 3.4. Okay, so now let me open up few more cells. So if I want to print a, I can see a has this value. If I want to print b, b has this value. Now let's say I want to do an operation of a plus b. I want to add these two arrays. So let's say I will say addition is equal to a plus b. Okay, so it has happened. Now if I print what is saved in my addition, what will you get? So you will get an array. You will get an array of both these two values combined. So what it did, it will add each index value to each. So this is my value at index 0. This is my b value at index 0. This is my a value at index 1. This is my b value at index 1. This is my a value at index 2. This is my a value at index 2. So it will add index wise. So two arrays will be added index wise. So 0 index value will be added to 0. 1 index value will be added to 1. 2 index value will be added to 2. So that's what it did. So what it did, it added 1 plus 1.5. Okay, I have 2.5 at my first index. It added 2 plus 2.3. I have 4.3 at the second index. It added 3 plus 3.4. I have 6.4 at the third index. So that means it took this arrays index wise and added both the array. Now I can do any operation in it. I can do a subtraction as well. See, array also supports negative value. So now it subtracted 1 from 1.5. So that means it will have a negative value of 0.5. See, it is there. Because I'm subtracting lower value from a higher value, right? So negative is there. Then I am subtracting 2 minus 2.3. Again, a smaller value is getting subtracted from a higher value. What is I'm getting minus 0.3. So this is my value here. So like this, you can perform individual mathematical operations directly in an array, which flexibility you don't have in a NumPy, in a list. So in Python, the interview questions are basically, if someone wants to test you, they'll ask you what is the difference between an array and a list in Python. So first difference you can say is that list supports dynamic data types, whereas array supports only their data of the same data type. We cannot perform mathematical operations directly in a list, whereas array allows us gives the flexibility to perform direct mathematical operation. I can do a by b as well. See, now it has divided 1 by 1.5 and it has given me the answer that it is 0.66, 0.86, 0.88. So you can go ahead and do any mathematical operation. Now there is another way also. If you, let's say you don't want to go by this way, I can still do it in a different way. I can say np dot divide a comma b. Then also it will give you the same result. You can explicitly mention the operation by a symbol, or you can say by this. You can also say np dot multiply a comma b. It will go and again multiply this 1 with 1.5, 2 with 2.3, 3 with 3.4 and give you the result. Now let's say you want to do a mathematical operation. You want to find the sine theta value of all the values at a. Okay, so if I say np dot sine of a, so that means it will take sine 1, sine 2 and sine 3 and tell me what are the values. See, so that means what is sine? So we know trigonometrically, mathematically, if I have two lines and I want to identify an angle, I can do it in a degree, or trigonometry says I can say that the distance, these things you will learn later. So let's say I have two different kind of, I want to find a distance measurement. Okay, I want to do some sort of a distance calculation in this. So there are various provisions where you can find out the cos value and the sine value using trigonometrical operations in this Python. But in a list, if I have a list, I cannot do that list dot sine of that value. List, I cannot find the values of sine theta, cos theta. If I want to find the cos value, of the array B, np dot cos B, it automatically gives me what is the cosine value. What is the cosine value of my array of B, which is having these are the numbers. So that means it gives me the direct mathematical flexibility. Now let's say we do logarithm, right? You would have heard of logarithm. We do log transformation in machine learning, right? So if I want to find the log, I'll say np dot log of B. So it will give me each log value for my array B. It will take these values and it will tell, okay, so log 1.5 is this, log 2.3 is this, log 3.4 is this. See the power of this package NumPy, that this logarithm, any mathematical operation can be just done with 2, 3 by calling a method. If you go by yourself to calculate this in a program, you have to climb the Mount Everest, right? You have to write the logic, you have to mathematically define and then create. But Python gives us this flexibility of performing all the mathematical related calculations. Okay, so that's why it is one of the common this thing. Now you can widely adopted for data science. Now if I say let's see, if I want to check element wise A equal to B, let's see what happens. So I did a Boolean operation. So what is Boolean? Boolean is nothing but when I want to identify anything in terms of true and false, right? So let's say I'm saying Kevin is 40 years old. If I want to do it a Boolean, how will I write it? If Kevin is 40 years old, Kevin age is 40, either it will be a true statement or a false statement. So anything that is represented in true and false is we call it as Boolean, right? So here what is happening is, if I say A is equal to B, Python is taking this as a validation statement. And what it is doing, it is mapping each index value of these two arrays with one another and trying to see if they are equal or not. So what it did, it mapped 1 with 1.5, which is not equal. 1 is never equal to 1.5, right? So it returned me false. See, the first value is false. So if you want to, let's say you have a huge array. Now here I have only 3 arrays. You can explicitly see. Let's say you have an array size of 10 million array size. Is it possible for you to find each and every value matching or not? So what you do, you map one value array with the other. We call it as element wise comparison in Python. So Python will take each of these array and take an element wise comparison and return you a Boolean value. Again, 2 is not equal to 2.3, it returned me false. 3 is not equal to 3.4, it returned me false. Now let's say I change one of these values in A and B, I make it as 3. Now when I do, see, it true, false, false, true, because last value of this array 3 is equal to the last value of array B. So that's why it returned me true, rest 2 are false. So these are the various mathematical related operation that you can do comparison wise. Okay. Now there are other things that we can do. We call it as aggregate function. Now let's say I want to find the sum of all the values in an array A. What I'll do, I'll say A dot sum. See, it added all the values of A only. 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus 3 is 6. If I say B dot sum, it will add 1.5 plus 2.5 plus 3, it is 6.8. So these are the inbuilt aggregated function in Python. Now let's say I want to find, it is a small array. When a bigger array is there, I want to find the minimum value in my array. I will do B dot min. So it is saying 1.5 is the minimum value. If I want to find the maximum value, I'll say B dot max of this array. It will return me 3.0 in terms of a float, that this 3 is the maximum value in your array. Okay. So there are certain other aggregates of operations called mean, median, and mode. So if you want to find the average, we can find the mean, right? So I can say mean of B. It will tell me that 3 is the mean value of your array B. So these are the ways you can handle NumPy in different ways. It helps you to in Python to play around, because these are the basic operations that you need when you deep dive into your machine learning exercise. With this, this is the concept I want to explain you on NumPy, and also you did learn before. So any relevance that you find now, Kevin? I mean, what you learned on NumPy and what we saw right now. So now is it little more clear to you?
It's yeah, it's more clear now.
You're able to get the concepts, right? What
Yep.
is the, how can this NumPy package be very much helpful and become my only sole bread and butter when I go into machine learning? Because in machine learning, when I have data, I will do nothing but mathematical operations. Any model building that you do, any algorithm that I take, everything is based on mathematics. So to handle my mathematical operations, I will need NumPy to the core there. So NumPy comes into very effective picture when you deal with images. When you go for deep learning, let's say I have given you 2000 images. Your computer will not understand these 2000 images. Computer cannot read images. Computer, what it will do? Computer creates a matrix of the pixel values of those images. So computer will identify what is the pixel value of one of the image. Let's say it might create a matrix like this. Okay, 5, 3, 2, 1, 1, 6. It will take this pixel range as a matrix and identify that, okay, this is the image of a Kevin. So if I give your picture, machine learning model will never know it's a Kevin. So how does machine reads an image? Machine reads an image in terms of your matrix calculation. So machine will create a default matrix of the pixel values of your image, and it will store within itself. Then it could be a 3 by 4 matrix, 3 by 3 matrix based on the image resolution and the image pixel value. So matrix will always identify Kevin's picture with the pixel resolution, the pixel matrix of this one. So when you do matrix, it's very important. So mathematical matrix is actually used in that form of array in Python. So it is very evident or inevitable that you understand the concept of NumPy thoroughly. So there are other various operations. Okay, I cannot cover each and everything. You can Google and learn. So let's say I have a very bigger array. I want to sort the array in terms of ascending to descending. So see, it will sort me the array. So if I say, let's say val is equal to a dot sort. And then I'm saying print So if I add a value here and I want to print val, see, so it did, okay, no, it's not printing for some reason. Okay. Okay. So it was already sorted. So like this, you can perform various sorting operations and other elementary operations in an array. You can read more about NumPy. We have array manipulation. These are, very deeper mathematical concepts. I don't want to confuse you right now. So these are the basic NumPy operations that I wanted to cover. Okay. So any questions before we get into the next, library pandas?
No, NumPy is clear.
Okay. The next, your bread and butter, more important than NumPy, is pandas. Without this, you cannot handle any data in Python. Even though with NumPys, you can still work out in NumPy. You don't use NumPy, that's fine. But if you want to read data in Excel, in Python, you need to know pandas. So what is pandas? Pandas is actually a high-level data manipulation tool, which was initially developed by a person called as Wes McKinney. It was built on the concept of data structure and NumPy itself. So the backend of this pandas library is actually built on NumPy. NumPy and data structure is the parent, rule, I would say, behind this. And we call this as data frame in Python. Remember this word, data frame. So whatever you do in a Python, it becomes in pandas, it's a data frame. So what is data frame? So data frame allows you to store and manipulate tabular data in terms of rows and columns in Python. So if I have a table of data, how do I represent it? Pandas helps me to read the data in terms of, rows and columns. Okay. So how do we learn it? So how do we import it here? So similarly, I will import pandas as PD, like we did import NumPy as NP. You can do anything. You can import pandas as Kevin also. That's your choice. Okay. Then everywhere you call NumPy, you have to say Kevin dot, then the method name. Okay. So now what I am doing here is I am calling a library. I have created a value of dates. So pandas gives me an option of something called as date range. So pd.dateRange is a Python pandas inbuilt method that if I specify a starting date in this format and the period, it will give me the list of dates. So let's say today is 22nd November, right? Now from 22nd November, for 6 periods, I want to generate the date list. So what it will do, it will take 22nd November, then 23rd November, then 24th November, 25th November, 26th November, 27th November. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I passed 6 period values. That means let's say 6 days if I can say. So it will give me a value list of 6 days starting from 22nd November. So here I wanted to create a data frame. So I said pd.dateRange 2020, 01 and 18. So let me just change it to, let's say 2020 and then 11 and then 22, today's date. Okay. And then, so it is stored in a variable called dates. Now I want to create a data frame in Python. How do I create using pandas? So always I have a value called df. df is equal to pd is pandas.dataframe is my inbuilt method. So pd.dataframe is the value that I create, or is the method that I use to create a data frame in Python. Okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying pd.dataframe. See, I'm here using a NumPy array. I want to generate a random set of numbers between 6 comma 4 matrix. My starting row length of row is 6. My column length is 4. So generate me some random numbers of 6 by 4 matrix or 6 by 4 array. Index is equal to dates. So these are the parameters that a data frame takes. Index, columns, these are the parameters that you can pass. So this date variable what I have created, I am saving it in an index value, and I am creating columns in my data frame as a list of ABCD. So if I do all this and run, what is my output? If I run this and I play the DF, see, it created 6 days for me starting from today. 22nd November is the date in my place. 22nd, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. 6 days, because I gave period as 6. It created a list of this value. It generated me a matrix or an array of 6 by 4, 6 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. An array 4 is a length, 4 is column. That means 1 column, 2 column, 3 column, 4 column. And I wanted to name these columns as ABCD. So that's what is columns list is ABCD. So this is the default way that I have randomly created a dummy data set. Okay, so now in this kind of a thing,
Hey, Paul, I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
I was looking at the line of code where you have the NumPy generate the random numbers. Right after the random, that line RANDN, what does that do? Yeah, that one right there. I can't hear you.
Sorry, I was talking in mute. Yeah. So random. So randn is actually the method within my random library, which is creating this random number. So random is actually my parent library, okay, which gives me many operations, out of which what I want to use is only the random number generation. So randn denotes random number. So random.randn is nothing but the way I call it. So random performs many other operation, out of which, so even NumPy gives you many operations, right? So NumPy is, we have utilized NumPy-C, we have utilized np.arrange, np.array. So there are many methods inside one library called NumPy, right? So if you want to specifically identify, this is how we do it. So inside NumPy, I want to call random. So how do I do? np.random, because it's a sub module inside NumPy, and inside random I want to call only randn. So that's why it is called np.random.randn. So here pandas is PD. The pandas has thousands of operations. Inside the pandas, I want to create I want to call the data frame method. So that's why I'm giving pd.dataframe. Now in the down part, I can show you that I have used many other operations like pd.toXL, pd.this, pd.that. So whenever you call any package and its sub package, the purpose of calling it is main package dot the sub package. So every time you give a dot dot dot, you go inside and call the sub packages. That's the way in Python, right? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So now, in this case, let's say this is my entire, now in Python language, this entire table, we call it as data frame. Remember this, very, very important in machine learning, data frame. Okay. This entire table that I created is actually called as my data frame in Python, which I generated by myself randomly using some random numbers. Index, I created some random dates, and I named my column as ABCD with a list. Now I want to, let's say, see the top 2 rows of my data frame. This is a small data frame. What is the length? It's 6. But you might have data which is, let's say, 1 million rows are there, or 10,000 rows are there. So in that case, I want to identify or see only the top part of my data. So there is a provision in Python. So df is the data frame in which I have my value. So df.head will always print you the top value of the data frame. So df, that means head of the data. So by default, head takes 5, even though if you have 20 rows, you give df.head, it will show you top 5 rows. I don't want to see top 5, I want to see top 2. So I explicitly mentioned df.head of 2 in bracket C. It printed me the top 2 values, this row and this row. This is like if you want to play around and cut short your data. Now let's say I want to see the bottom 2. So head will always be the top part, tail will always be the bottom part. So if I run df.tail of 2, it will print me this row with 26 and 27 date. See, it give me 2. If I remove, let's say, the 2 from here and I say tail, so by default it will give me the bottom 5 values. So what are my bottom 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 27 till 23. So it should ignore 22. That's what it did. See, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, because it takes by default bottom 5 values in tail, and head takes by default top 5 values by default. You cannot view more than 5. Okay, so that's how your head and tail of the data gets viewed. Now let's say I want to see what are the column names in my data frame. What I'll do, I'll say df dot columns. If I run this, see, it is printing me that these are the column names in my data frame. A, B, C, D. A, B, C, D are my column names in the data frame. Now let's say in NumPy we saw transpose, right? So in data frame also, if I want to transpose this table, that means I want to make these, I want to make, these dates, I want to make these dates as rows, and I want to make these columns A, B, C, D as rows, right? So what I do a transpose of it. So if I do a transpose, I'll say df is my data frame dot t. See, it transposed the entire matrix. Okay, it converted ABCD into row and the dates into columns. Now you may ask why there is a dot dot 0 in addition, because since I created a data frame or a date range, this method by default called some hours value as well, which I don't need. As of now, there is a way you can remove this also, but by default what it did, since I transposed it, it took the date, but it also took the hours, minute and the second. So there is a way that you can ignore it also. So you have to just check this and you can remove this part, and your data is just this data gets completely transposed into this way. So that means I am reversing my data frame. Okay, so now let's say in this main data frame, I want to see only the only the values of my column A. I don't want to see anything else. So what I'll do, I'll say df in braces in this bracket, I will pass on square bracket, I'll pass on the column name A. So if I run this, it will only tell me the values of the column A. So what is my values of column A? Did it transpose itself? 1 second. 20. Okay, it was showing me the tail. What is my main data here? 1.09, 2.26. See, yeah. So it showed me the values of my column A. So this is my main data. So column A minus 1.09, minus 0.266, 8.84 are the values. See, it printed me the only values of the column A with respect to the index. Okay. Now, let's say I want to check whether in my data frame df, let's say I remove this transpose, I want to see that within my data frame, all these values that are there, which values are greater than 0 and which values are less than 0. I see there are negative values also, correct? So now let's say I want to identify values which are greater than 0 and values which are less than 0. So what I'll do, I'll say df in square braces, df greater than 0, checking the values of the data frame which are greater than 0. If I run this cell, what is happening? So for every data frame value, okay, wherever the value is less than 0, greater than 0, it replied me something called as nan. Now in Python, what is a nan? So nan in Python data frame is nothing but not a number, not a number. So whenever you see a Python returning you a nan, that means you might have second. So when a Python returns you nan, that means your value is not matching. So wherever it found a value which is, I am checking greater than 0, right? So greater than 0, that means it will be all positive values. So wherever it will find a negative value, it will update that specific cell value as nan. That means not a number, because it did not satisfy this condition. So see, this value is minus 1.09, which is less than this satisfaction condition is not satisfied, because this value is less than 0, so it updated it as nan. Whereas 0.16 is matching my required condition, df greater than 0, so it kept this value as intact. So that means now I can see how many values here are greater than 0 and how many are less than 0. So this is the way. Now let's say I want to remove all the values in this data frame which are less than 0. So what I'll do, I'll find values greater than 0, which will replace me it with nan values, and then I'll remove all the nans from here. That means my all values which are less than 0 got removed. Sorry, values greater than 0 are there, any value which is less than 0 got removed. So these are the various data frame related operations that we do. Now let's say this is my main data frame, okay, df, where I have all the values, right? Now let's say I want to perform this operation of removing the values which are not greater than 0. If I do this directly on this df will be modified and I use my original values also, like this negative values will be removed. But let's say I want to keep this negative values, I might need it in future. I am just doing an analysis, and for any hit and trial method, I am trying to do some operation. So what I can do is I can copy this entire data frame value into another data frame, store it and keep it as a backup, and perform an operation of removing the values less than 0 in this df. So how do I do it? I'll say df1 is equal to nothing but df.copy. Simple method by which you can copy the entire data frame df into df1. Now if I print the df1 here, see, so df1 is having the exactly similar values as what is in your df. Now if I go and alter everything in df, if I need the data, original data back, I can call df1 where I can have the original data. So this is how we do. So if I'm not sure of a certain operation and I'm doing some mathematical calculation, I want to keep a backup of the original data frame and then perform an operation, because if I fail, I might need these values again. So what I'll do then, right? So I'll save it somewhere as a backup and then I'll go and perform certain operation. So here, if you see, this is another data frame that I created using a NumPy. Okay, so see, from numpy.random import randn. This is how you call methods inside methods. That was your question, right? So there are various ways. So I am calling the numpy.random module. From numpy.random, I am importing randn to generate me the random number. np.random.seed1, this I'll explain you later. It will be very early stage to explain you what is a seed here. So seed actually generates random numbers at a constant calculation at the backend. So that we will talk later when we get into machine learning, what is the value of utilization of random seed. I have created a data frame, let's say, where I have scores and I have some columns. How did I create? I said data frame is equal to pd.dataframe randn generate me some random numbers, 10 rows and 5 columns. Index is equal to a, b, c, d, e, f, g, h, I, j. That means these are my index value. Dot split, I did a split operation by space so that I can uniquely identify these. And then I gave my column names as score 1, score 2, score 3, and I splitted it by space so that it can be uniquely identified. Okay, so now this is the data frame that got created. I want to do some operation on it. Now let's say I want to see only the values of score 1 and score 2. What do I do? I'll say data frame square bracket score 1 and score 2 comma score 1. Okay, so score 2 and score 1 values are printed here. See, score 1 and score 2 only I'm getting. Now let's say I want to check that in my column scores, I want to add one more column here. Okay, so let's say I have score 5 till 5 columns. I want to add one more column here. Okay, I want to add one more column here, which will be score 6. This column will be, let's say, an addition of another column called, yeah. So I want to add one more column called score 6. So how do I add a new column in a data frame? So you have to call this data frame, and then in square bracket you have to pass the column name. So I can name it as score 6. I can name it as Kevin also. Okay. So then what will be the values of that column? I want to add score 1 and score 2 and store it in score 6. So now if I print the data frame, see a new column got created with the original one. Now you can say, okay, now a new column got created. Okay, now if you see, score 1 and score 2 would have been added, and this value, addition this value is actually this value. So we can have a calculator and check it also, but it is correct. Mathematically it did that. So I wanted to add 1 and 2 column and create a score column. Let's say I can change it to Kevin as well. It's my wish. See, score 6 got updated to Kevin. Right? So how can you add a new column into a data frame? The data frame variable that you have in square bracket, pass on the name and then the operation that you want to follow for that value. Right? So now let's say I want to drop off this Kevin column. I don't need it. I added it, but I don't need it anymore. So what I'll do, there is a provision called data frame.drop. Then you pass on the column name. Score 6 is no more there. So I'll change it to Kevin. Okay. And now why it is axis? So whenever you want to delete a column, it is axis is equal to 1 in data frame. Whenever you want to delete a row, it is axis is equal to 0 in a data frame. Just remember this, it's a theory. Okay, so whenever you want to delete a column, let's say I don't specify this and I want to delete data frame.drop of Kevin. If I run this cell, what will happen? See, Python is giving me an error. It says label Kevin not contained in axis. So it is not able to identify that this label Kevin is belonging to row or column. That means is it x-axis or it is y-axis.
Hey, Paul, could you repeat that column? Is it the axis 1 or axis 0?
So column is axis 1, row is axis 0. Column is axis 1, row is axis 0. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So, one second. ABCD, Kevin. Yeah. So let me run this data frame once again. Okay. So I'll do this. So I have a data frame of this, and then I'll data frame of score 1 and score 2 I want to see, then this one, and then this one. Right? So there I have added Kevin. Now to delete Kevin, I have to mention axis is equal to 1. Then this cell is going to run again. Now it got dropped. Okay. Now if I run it again, see, I don't have. Okay, yeah, good point. So I wanted to show you something else. Okay, so even though I said data frame.drop Kevin, first I removed axis, so it said that it is not able to identify the label. Then I gave axis is equal to 1. It ran perfectly, but when I see my data frame, Kevin is still there. It did not drop Kevin. Can you just guess what could be the reason here, Kevin? Why it did not drop even though I said axis is equal to 1?
Is it because this was the copied data frame?
No, this was not the copied one. This is a data frame which I just created here. This one, I did not copy it anywhere. I did not copy it. I copied df1, df to df1. That's a different data frame, right? This was having values like this. This data frame has values like this. It's different. Even though I said data frame.drop Kevin x is 1, see this cell ran. There's no error. But when I print my data frame again, it is still showing Kevin. Any guess?
Because it updated the data frame?
It did not update the data. Now, what happened here is, when I said data frame dot drop Kevin axis is equal to 1, it actually accepted this command, it ran, and it got finished within that cell itself, because I did not allow Python to save this updated information in my data frame. I have not given Python any command that after you drop this column called Kevin, you go and update the data frame also, because I don't want to see it anymore. That command was missing in this line. That's why it ran, it dropped it for that specific instance, but then when I reran, it still shows me the value again, because this data frame was never updated that Kevin was dropped. So to do this, there are two ways in Python. Okay, if you want to do it through pandas, you have to pass one more argument along with axis 1 called as in place is equal to true. So that why it is happening? Because let's say by mistake you are dropping any column and it's a huge data set. You lost the data. So Python wants you to explicitly mention when you are dropping that you are dropping, it's fine, which we did here. We dropped it, it's fine in axis 1. But do you want to update this dropped column to the main data frame of your table? That's why in place is an argument which is accepted by this drop method. If you mention in place is equal to true, that means drop Kevin, not because we don't have this anymore, right? So drop Kevin okay. Yeah, and then in place is equal to true. That means then you are giving a command to Python that once you drop Kevin, in place is equal to true, will go and update this original data frame also. Now then if I run this cell, then if I see my data frame, now see Kevin is no more there. If I say explicitly mention in place is equal to, if I don't mention anything, by default here, since I did not mention in place, by default Python takes it as false. But if you want to update your data frame, you have to mention it explicitly that in place is equal to true. Then only your original data frame will be updated. Okay. Now let's say again, if I want to drop, okay, if I want to drop a specific row, let's say I want to drop this row A. Okay, what I'll do, I'll say data frame dot drop, I'll pass this row. So row, you do not have to actually sometimes mention axis is equal to 0. By default, Python understands when you have an index value and you pass on the index, it will always take this index value and it will drop that row. So see, if I say data frame dot drop of A, then it dropped A. Now A is no more there. We have rows from B to J. So this is how you manipulate a row and a column. Now let's say I want to identify that at my F row, what are the values of my F row at index F. So LOC is nothing but location. So LOC actually stands for location in Python. Yeah. So LOC in Python is nothing but location. When I want to identify any value with respect to its location, I use LOC. So what happens here is, I'm saying data frame dot location index is F. Tell me what are all the values in my index F. So see, it is passing me all the values, that it has the column at score 1, this is the value, score 2, this is the value, score 3, this is the value, score 4, this is the value, score 5, this is the value. Okay, so this is how it is identifying each index at a specific location. Now let's say I don't have A, B, C, D as my index. By default, Python takes index as numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I don't have my index mentioned, then I will use index location iloc and I'll pass on the index value called 2. 2 here is nothing but which value? 2 here is nothing but this row C. So this column, this row is my 1, index 1, iloc 1, this is my iloc 2, this is my index location 3, this is my index location 4, this is my index location 5. Like this, if I say data frame dot iloc of 2, see it printed that your name actually here is C. That means my actual column name, row name is C, and it printed me all the values at that I location of 6, 2. So it printed me score 1, 1.46, score 2 is minus 2.06, then minus 0.32, minus 0.38, and 1.13. So like this, you can access specific row values and specific column values also. These are the way you manipulate and play around with pandas and data.
Oh,
Now
I have a
similarly,
question there.
yes, please go ahead.
Are you saying when you use the iloc function, when you start counting, you don't start from 0, you start from 1?
Let's see. Let's say, yes, index location starts with 0. If I say iloc of 0, it will not find anything here. Did it find? Let's see what it found. Which column did it take? It took A. Ah, okay. Yes. So 0 means A here. Though I have dropped A. Now see the concept here again. What happened?
Mm-hmm.
Here the row was dropped, but since I did not update anything as in place kind of a thing, if I print my data frame once again, I still have my A column there. See, now let me try this. Yeah, if I want to say, now what I'll do is, let me say in place is equal to true. Then my data frame will be automatically updated. Yes, it dropped A. Now when I print a data frame, see, A is not there. So now when I pass on index 0, let's see what it takes. So now what it takes, yes. So now it takes, actually it has taken the first value as index 0. See, it has printed me the name B. Now if I pass index 2 here, now it should actually take 0, 1, 2. So 2 should be D now. So it should be printing me D. Yes, it printed me the D. Okay. So yes,
Okay.
index values also starts with 0. You can go with 0 also. And if you specify, so what will be the last one? J is 10, but since I started with 0, it should be 9. So 0 to 9 is 10, right? So if I print 9, what happened? It says out of bound. Ah, okay. Why it's saying out of bound? Let's see what's the problem. So it takes, sorry, I dropped 1, right? So it is actually 9. So that means 0 to 8. Since I passed 9, it reached outbound. So 0 to 8 is 9. So B to J is actually 9. But I'm starting from 0. So I have to give the maximum index size here is 8. So 8 if I give, it will return me the last cell. Okay. So in this way, you can play around with data frame. Now again, what we did in NumPy, that I wanted to, at the top we saw that I wanted to check whether any of my data frame value is greater than 0 or not, right? Correct. So the way I wanted to do it, return me NaN, but now I'm doing it in a different way. Okay. Now here I'm trying to say that, yes, data frame greater than 0 is like this. So if I only pass data frame greater than 0, then it will give me the output as binary. So wherever the value is greater than 0.5, it will mention it as true. Wherever the value is less than 0.5, it will mention it as false. So let's see the first value, 0.55 is greater than 0.5, it mentioned it as true. Okay. Now minus 0.62 is actually less than 0.5, it updated it as false. So based on my condition here, it actually shows me that 0.5 greater than which value in which cell is a true condition, which is a false condition. This is, just a rough, it's just nothing but I'm playing around with this. You might need or might not need, but you should know the concept. Now let's say I want to more drill down. I want to now find that in my only column score 1, okay, in my column score 1, do you have, list me all the values which are greater than 0.5 in this column score 1. Okay, so data frame of score 1, this is the way you define it, the column name greater than 0.5. So what it will show me, it will show me that okay, for your this one you have these all values which are greater than 0.5 with respect to your score 1. So there are multiple ways, you know, how can you play around. So now let's say yes, score 1 greater than 0.5. Now let's say I want only score 1 column greater than 0.5 and update score 2. So that means it will show me that okay, for this condition these are the values which are greater than 0.5 in this entire row. So like this, you know, you can drill down into row wise, column wise operation. Now let's say there is something called as reset index. Okay, so by default we know that A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H was our index, correct? Now if I use this reset index column, it changes this index A, B, C, D which was there. It does a reset, and Python gives an own index of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in numbers, and it takes and it makes this previous index as a column now. Okay, now if I say that if I want to find this column, the index has become a column for me. Okay, now let's say I want to replace these columns A, B, C, D with something else. Now let's say these are the scores of various countries in an Olympics game or any tournament. I want to replace this row of each row of index with the country name. How do I do it? I am creating a value called new index is equal to India IND, Japan JP, Canada CN, any country DF, SGD, Germany, anything like you know, Europe, any random names, and I am creating a list of, you know, countries, and I am splitting them by, you know, space so that I can get the unique value. I am creating a column data frame of countries where I am assigning this value new index to it. So now if I run this, see, my data frame got a new column called country got added, like we did for Kevin. Okay, so that means now I can say each country has its corresponding value row wise. Now I don't need this indexing A, B, C, D. I want my data to be free formatted with this country as an index. So now reset index removes index, set index allows you to add an index. So now what I do, data frame dot set index method, which is the column, countries is the column that I want to use, and in place is equal to true to update my data frame. Then when I print, see this column, now there might be a question, how do you convert a column into an index? So you have to say, I can use the method called set index, pass the column name, it converts that index in that column into an index for me. Now I have a country as an index, and I have all the respective scores of my country. See, these are the various ways you play around. Country was not even in my data frame. I created a random data, I did some operation, I created a random set of country, I merged it, and I finally created a data. See, it's up to you. The more you know operations, you can create your own data. You play around with it. Okay. Now if I want to find any value, let's say I want to find the index location, India is my location, and I want to see the value, data frame.loc of IND, it tells me what are the different scores of the country India. Okay, so now let's say I create one more data frame 1 is equal to pd.dataframe. Okay, I want it to create a data frame with column cricket. See, this is one more way of creating data frame. So cricket is the column name colon values. If I pass in third bracket, it takes this as the column name and it takes this as the value. So 1, 2, 3 np.nan. So wherever I give nan, that means not a number. It's an empty value there. Okay. Then for baseball column, I have this many values, and for tennis column, I have this many values. So wherever I have used np.nan, that means I don't have a value. It's an empty value, not a number. So if I create this and print my data frame 1, how it is getting created? Python automatically creates indexing because I haven't done any reset index or set index. I have the columns cricket, tennis, and baseball. And these are my values that I have passed here. One, it takes it in a float format. 1 is 1.0, 2 is 2.0. np.nan is represented as nan, not a number. That means it's an empty. I haven't specified any value there. Now, why I'm showing you this operation, I'll tell you why. Now, let's say I'm giving you a data of Amazon's sales data. Okay, it's a 1 year sales data for every month. Let's say it's a data of 1 million entries. Now, there could be certain values, which is missing. The data that I have given you, let's say for the month of July and the first week of July, there was no data. It can happen, right? Might be the system missed it to capture, or the source from where I generated you the data, it did not capture for any specific month, July. So July of 2019 was completely empty. You have for Jan, Feb, March, June, you don't have for July and let's say October. So those rows will be empty in your data when you read it. So having an empty data, it is not good for us. So in Python or any ML exercise, whenever we have an empty data in our data set, we do certain operations to it. So whenever you read, let's say I give you an Excel file, you read that Excel file and you have empty values. Okay. What will happen? Python will identify those empty values of Excel as nan. So when you view your data frame, it will be seen as nan here. Now what we generally do, let's say I want to drop all the values where the cells are empty. So there is a provision, we use drop here, correct? We use df.drop at the top. Here we will use something called as df, which is my data frame 1.drop na. Drop na is nothing but drop na, not a number. So drop na means it will check all the nan values in your data frame, and wherever it finds an empty or a nan value, it will drop. So data frame 1.drop na, if I do this, see, it removes all the nan values. So for cricket, I don't have nan anymore. So it actually dropped from the 0th row, it actually dropped that entire row for me. Okay, it even dropped for tennis wherever I had a value. So there is, you might have a question, okay, why did you drop for tennis? Tennis had a value, right? But drop na does this, it's a drawback of this method, that wherever it finds nan, it will drop that entire row. So for example, for the 7th row, there was 1 nan, but I had values for 2, but it deleted the entire row itself. Okay. So in machine learning, we generally don't do drop na, we do something else. But just to show you that what drop na does, this is what, I am showing. So I did not do in place is equal to true. So when I print my data frame 1 again, it shows me the data, it is intact. Okay. Now, let's say without dropping this nan, not a number or empty, I want to fill those values. I want to fill those missing values with 0. Okay. So what I do, I'll say data frame 1.fill na is the method, value is equal to 0. Now whenever I print this, so wherever I had nan, it is replaced with 0. So these fill na, drop na are the very important operational methods in pandas. You need them when you deal with data. So if I say value is equal to, let's say 6 randomly, so it will replace all the missing values with 6. So wherever I had nan, you will see 6 now, 6.0. Here I had nan, 6.0. Here I had nan, 6.0. Here last I had nan, see 6.0. See, so if you by default, you want to identify all the missing values and replace, how tough it will be. Python gives you the flexibility with just a single method. Fill na of and pass the value. It replaces by yourself. It goes and finds all the nan or empty value and replaces it with this value by itself. Now, let's say I wanted, so I'll replace it with 0 again. So I did not do any in place or something, right? Next time if I print again, it will show me nan. So now let's say data frame 1 of baseball. So I want to take the column baseball and fill the column baseball with the mean values. So right, average. So this is we will talk about this when we talk about statistics, why I have used mean, what is mean, median, mode, all these things. So let's say mean is nothing but average. I want to replace these empty values with the average of this column. Okay. So average means 5 plus 5 plus 7 plus 2 plus 24 plus 5 divided by 8. That's the average. So it will replace, so 8 I think is the mean value. So wherever there was a nan or a nan value, it replaced it with 8 because 8 was the average. So this is how, you know, you specifically you can mention a condition also. It will automatically calculate the mean and it will replace it by itself. Yes, so the mean of my baseball column is actually 8. So if I want to say what is the average score for baseball team, I can say data frame of baseball dot mean. It tells your average means or your mean score is 8. Okay. Let's say I want to identify, I want to do the entire, I want to group the entire data with respect to cricket. So how do I do? I'll say data frame 1 dot group by of cricket, and then if I do a mean, I can see for cricket what is the, so I grouped this entire data for cricket and then I did a mean. So now it has given me that for cricket, which is your this, what are the baseball mean values and the tennis mean values. You might not understand the benefit of this group by and all right now, but what I'll say, take this, I'll share this notebook to you. Bob will upload it. So please go and spend some time and do an hands-on by yourself. Again, then if you don't practice, you will forget and you will not remember. It's a very vast concept. Okay. Now let's say I want to identify what are the column names. I know df.columns. So I did df1.columns. It gave me all the column names: cricket, baseball, and tennis. Now let's say I want to sort the data frame by cricket score. So data frame 1.sort underscore values by cricket. So it sorted this entire data by cricket value. If I say tennis, it will sort the entire data by the tennis value. So like this, you know, these are various, you know, attribute kind of operation or manipulation that you do with respect to your Python pandas, because all these operations that we do under pandas are needed for me to play around with my data to perform various machine learning exercise. So let's say I have a data where I want to sort the entire data by the sales figure of August. Okay, what I'll do, I'll take the data frame sort value by August. If my data has a column called month, I will refresh the sort, I'll sort the data by August value and then I'll map it. These operations will allow you to see the data from a different angle. It will be required in your analysis, right? So I think, yes, we are almost on the top of the hour today. So with this, we conclude the basics and introduction to Python, covering everything that you needed at a very high level. But yes, I will encourage you to spend more time and learn more. This is not the end. There are numerous thousands of more operations in Python, which I cannot cover each and everything. I have tried to cover the important things which you need in pandas when you play around with machine learning exercises. But yes, you can learn more. You can practice more. I'll share you this notebook, go through it again, try to, you know, Google out few more hands-on exercises and do it by yourself. It will, you can brush up your skills further, right? So with this, we conclude this week's session. We have covered the introduction to data science and basics intro to Python, along with numpys and pandas in Python, which we would need for machine learning. From next week, we will get into statistics, which is our second module. So with the 4 sessions, we have completed the introduction and the, you know, to Python and introduction to data science. So any questions before we wind up for the day, Kevin?
Not at this time.
Okay. So I hope you are able to relate things, right? Please let me know if you are not able to relate anything that we are discussing. So these are the, I encourage you to take this workbook once I share and do hands-on by yourself, because you won't learn unless you do a programming by yourself. Hands-on is must. So take this handbook, a notebook, try to do it by yourself. You know, sort values are there. Now sort values in ascending order, descending order are there. There are multiple, you know, ways to learn. So all you need to do, just Google pandas cheat sheet. Okay, you will find numerous cheat sheets in Google, which will tell you about numerous more operations about pandas. These are free to you. So let's say you have, see, these are the pandas cheat sheet which you can download and use it. So if you want to find value count, if you want to find unique values, so let's say, see, I have, see, there are various ways to it. So let's say I want to identify what are the unique values in my data frame. I'll say data frame 1.n unique. it is not working. Why? Because I did not specify any column. So let's say I want to identify the unique values in my cricket column and see how many unique values are there. So what it will print me? It is again giving me an error because, okay, this is this is unique. Okay. There's no attribute unique. Why? I did some mistake. Okay. Might be I'm doing some mistake here.
I think unique.
Did I update
I don't
anything
think
here?
that's not how you spell unique.
Oh yeah, might be, I would have done something at the top with the data, so it is not taking it. But if you read through these cheat sheets, your data frame followed by your column name dot n unique should give you the unique set of values in that. It should work. Let me see. Let me do this. Data frame. Might be I've done something with the data. So let me try to do this. Data
Like
frame
Bob
dot.
is saying, I think the error is in the spelling.
Yeah, spelling of unique is not correct, Paul. Yeah, that's the one.
Ah, yeah, right. So it should be N unique, UNIQUE. Oh, my bad, I think. Yeah. See, it worked. Thanks, Bob. You're becoming master now. Good. So, yeah. So, see, if I say what is N unique returns me. So, if I look into my cricket data, I have values 1, 2, 5, sorry, 4, 6, 7, and 2. So that means 2 is coming twice, right? So 2 is repeated twice, and 1, 4, 6, and 7 are repeated once. So N unique means unique values in my data of cricket. So that means 1 is my unique value 1, 2 is a unique value, so my count is 2, 4 is a unique value 3, 6 is a unique value 4, 5, 7 is a unique value 5. This 2 is not considered as unit because I have already counted 2. So if I remove, so all repeated values or duplicate values are counted only once, and remaining, if I see how many different values are there, 5. So it returned me that I have 5 different values. If I do it on tennis column, okay, so it returns me 8 because here everything is unique. There is no repetition of values, right? So these are the various ways that you can learn. So just Google out Pandas cheat sheet. You will have numerous data to learn, n number of operations. Even I don't know every operation, honestly saying, because it's so huge that when we do, you definitely need Google. I don't want to you to be expert or mug up everything. I want you to know the concept. Yes, it's not possible for a human being to know each and every aspect in data science. It's huge, huge, huge. Even if you want to learn pandas properly, it will take you 5 months. I can bet on it. Because the library is so huge. There's so much to learn. So when you learn, so the intention is at least from 100%, we should know 50% of the concepts, and remaining 50%, Google is always there to assist you. So let's say if you don't know n unique and you are doing a machine learning exercise, you want to identify what are the unique values in a column, you can Google, right? There's no harm in it. How to identify unique values in a pandas column or unique values in a pandas column, Google will show you. But when you attend an interview, they should show you, assess you that at least the basics, the important methods you are aware of. So you can Google out, go to this cheat sheet, download it, take this exercise, add this, and do a more hands-on. You will be bang on. See, we did a sort value, right? Sort values of this. There is sort index as well. Reset index, we learned about it. We did a reset index, we did a set index. We did not do sort index. So sort index will sort the data with respect to your index also. We did a drop, df.drop columns, everything we have tried. So there are certain things which you can, or other things you will learn. So the more we go into any real application assignment in machine learning, when we learn many things, you will also come to know. See, it has covered. We did df.iloc, we did df.head, we did df.trail. Drop or drop duplicates are same. Okay. If you want to identify smallest number, largest number, you can also do it. df.n largest, df.n smallest, right? Greater than, less than, smaller than. We have already seen this. It returns me true and false. Handling missing data. Drop, df.drop na. It helps you to delete or omit the data which are null or empty. Fill NA allows you to fill the missing values with whatever values you want, right? So I'll probably send this link also to Bob. He can upload it in important URLs. So go and download this PDF as a reference material. Do a NumPy cheat sheet also I'll send for you. So we can create the corpus, for future references and future students as well. So take this and it's try hands-on. We'll connect next week. Next week we'll talk on statistics. Okay.
Okay.